Hey guys, today we are finishing off exercise 4E part 3 of time payment agreements, and we'll be looking at credit cards. Unfortunately, there is a fair bit of content with this one, but the mathematics is not too difficult. So what you'll see on the screen now is a variation of the compound interest formula. The only thing that's different here is that the interest rate, R, which is just here, okay? Instead of it being divided by 100 as per the usual compound interest formula, it's being divided by 365 times 100 because there are 365 days in a year, and with credit cards, interest is actually compounded daily, okay? The rest of the values are the same. A is the total amount of the debt, okay? When we talk about credit cards, we are very, very, very rarely talking about credit. Okay, you will always owe the bank money. The principal is how much that you spend, so that's the amount that you're borrowing. Okay, so the amount that you spend on your credit card is your principal. The interest rate and the number of days that you have not yet paid off your credit card debt or loan. Okay, so interest-free periods, this is where things start to get a little bit more technical, and this is where more of the maths comes in. So an interest-free period is a brief time in which you are allowed to charge money to your credit card and pay back the amount in full before you're actually charged interest. So the number of days that you are then charged interest on could vary depending on when you make that payment. And I do have a step-by-step guide for you as we go through, so don't panic, please. Please note that in practice, so in reality, interest-free periods can get very, very tricky, and this is how banks will try to screw you over. I maintain my advice to never have a credit card, or if you end up with a credit card, pay it off and cancel it as soon as humanly possible. They will only find you further and further in debt. So we'll put this straight into practice, because in some of the earlier questions in this chapter or this exercise, you can go straight to using this formula. Okay, it's some that specify later examples that are going to look more like the one I'm about to go through with you, that are a little bit more complicated, but they use this formula anyway. So let's jump straight in. This is a big worded problem. The thing about year 11 and 12 is that you do need to know how to interpret worded problems. They will come up all of the time. Okay, especially going into your year 12 exams at the end of next year, all of your problems will pretty much be worded. Some of them will be this big, some of them will not be, and we need to practice our interpretation of them. So let's jump straight in. Bethany pays for her $3,300 holiday using her credit card, which has an annual interest rate of 18% per annum. Okay, so there's some important numbers. In the first place, that's going to be our R value, or lowercase r. Okay, that's going to be our principal. Straight away, we can probably point that out. Into this next sentence, this is where things get tricky. I promise they're not too bad. Her statement period is 30 days, beginning on the 1st of each month. So there's some more important information, with an additional interest-free period of 20 days. So the statement period means that this is when her bank will start the new statement. So she'll get a statement monthly in which she'll need to pay things off. That begins on the 1st of each month, but then she gets an additional interest-free period of 20 days. So say she charges something on the 1st of January, she has until the 20th of February to pay it back without interest. If she pays for her holiday on September 13, and intends to pay off her credit card by October 30th, what is the total payable? So how much is she actually going to pay on her credit card? All right, so our first step is to calculate the interest-free days. So to do that, we need to know that there are 30 days in September. You can use the trick on your knuckles to check, okay? So 30 days in September, which I'm going to shorthand naturally, okay? Minus, she's paying it on the 13th of September. So we're going to subtract 13, and that gives us 17 days in September. So that's the amount of time left in her interest-free period. Okay. She also has, oop, that's a funny looking T. How many interest-free days? Read it back in the question before I write it. okay, plus 20 days. So she ends up with a total of 37 days interest free, okay? That's your first step. So that here has taken this number, and knowing there are 30 days in September. And also her statement period is 30 days, so that's good to know as well. All right, I'm going to switch my color pen for a moment before we go to the next step. So to calculate the number of days for which interest is charged is your next step. So that's how many days she's got to pay off her loan. Where has my pen gone? Right there. Okay. We need to know now how many days it's taken her from paying for her $3,300 holiday to how long till she's paying it off. So from the 13th of September, okay, to the 30th of September, because there are 30 days in September, we have a total of 17 days. That's the same as what we had earlier. Okay. She's planning to pay off her credit card on October 30. So starting October 1st and finishing October 30. I don't mind if you write it as a list or if you skip these steps. You are more than welcome to, of course, not write out step by step, but I would recommend it. From October 1st to October 30, that's 30 days as well. Adding those together gives a total of 47 days. Okay, we're going to subtract now the interest-free days. And that's giving us, so we had how many interest-free days? 37. We're going to take that there. And we end up with a total of 10 days with interest. All right. Our last step now is to calculate the total amount A payable. So this is where we use that formula right up at the beginning. I'm going to switch to a red pen just so it stands out a little bit more. So A equals P bracket 1 plus, now the interest rate from the question was 18%, divided by 36500. Please note that my 18 is a whole number and there's no percentage in there. These two zeros here, okay, so this factor of 100 in the denominator will convert that to a percentage for you, to a decimal for you, multiplied by, this here is N. So N is 10 days. So that's how many days she's being charged interest. She got away with not paying any interest for the first 37 days that she did not pay off her credit card, but then her interest-free period ran out, and she has 10 days total of interest accrued. So we plug this into our calculator. Oop, I've forgotten to replace the letter P with the number that I needed it to be. My bad, let me fix that. We should also definitely substitute in the principal of 3,300 to find A. We then plug this into our calculators and it will spit out, don't forget your dollar sign, $3,316.31. We always round to two decimal places. So she's had to pay an extra $16.31 on her holiday, just in interest alone. And that's the tricky thing with interest, because usually your interest rates are going to be quite high and your interest-free periods will, sometimes they'll claim that they're longer, but there's always little tricks up their sleeves. So I would strongly urge you to do your own research and find out how that works, because if I'm completely honest, I don't fully understand it. But that is your step-by-step. So we calculate the interest-free days first, okay? So starting with how many days there are in the month that you make the payment, subtracting the date of the payment, and then adding the interest-free period, and that will give you the total number of interest-free days. We then went to calculating the number of days for which interest is charged. So looking at now the difference between the payment date and, the purchase date and the payment date. So purchase on the 13th of September, payment on October 30, that's a difference of 47 days. And then we find the difference between those parts 2 and 1. So 47 minus 37 gave us 10 days, and that's then what we substitute into this formula. Because this information, the $3,300 and the 18% per annum, were given to you in the question. This is what we need to solve the problem, and that's what those first two steps are for. If, however, you are given the value n, so however many days there is interest charged, you can jump straight to step 3. Of course, you don't have to do all of this unless it is required. Good luck with the work, guys. Let me know, of course, if you need any help. There will be conference calls happening on Teams tomorrow to help you out with this, tomorrow from when I'm posting this. And of course, you can watch this back as many times as you need. Email me your questions, and I will send you through my solutions with step-by-step written down next to them. Good luck, and here for you guys if you need it.